Adas, this is your story, and let me show you what it is. This is Satyajit Ray's The Adventures, The Incredible Adventures of Professor Shonku. और इसमें से हम पढ़ेंगे कहानी Professor Ronde's Time Machine. So, let's start it. Now, that's a bit weird. A scientist trio working on the same project in 3 different corners of the world. One of them, of course, is myself. And the project, yes, a time machine. Ever since I read H.G. Wells' wonderful Time Machine during my college days, I cherished a desire to create a similar instrument. I have been working on it since last year, though the work so far has merely been investigative. My theory is fairly well researched. Last February, I read a paper on it at a conference in Madrid. There it was accepted by one and all, but unfortunately I couldn't get further due to a dearth of funds as well as equipment. In the meantime, I came to know from William Crowley, a German friend of mine, that a Professor Kleiber of Cologne was also doing research on the same topic. Kleiber, whom I met at the conference, was brutally murdered by an anonymous assassin only a fortnight ago, so he couldn't complete his work. Kleiber was quite well off. Besides his scientific pursuits, he also used to collect rare antiques as a hobby. Presumably, he was killed by a robber because 3 priceless objects were discovered to be missing from his study. He was supposed to have been hit with a blunt weapon, despite a thorough investigation. The police failed to trace the killer. The third scientist working on the same machine is Professor Ronde of Milan. Not only has he made the machine, he has arranged a demonstration as well. I have never met him before. He didn't attend the Madrid conference. In fact, I didn't know until now that he too has been working on the machine for quite some time. Last month, Ronde wrote a letter inviting me to Milan to see the outcome of his research. I had already had a hunch that I was going to lose the race. Yet I couldn't imagine that Ronde would, or rather could, outshine me in this manner. Anyway, I decided to grab the opportunity. After all, he was going to bear the expenses. Ronde was quite affluent. He is better known as Count Ronde. He must have inherited a magnificent estate. Being a scientist myself, I could well gauge the depth of his elation. Obviously, he needed another scientist's appreciation, so no wonder he was keen on showing us the fruits of his labor. Now, the million-dollar question. What really is a time machine? In a nutshell, a ride on this machine can transport the itinerant to the past as well as the future. For example, there is a lot of controversy over the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. The machine can transport you to the Egypt of 5,000 years ago, and you can witness the actual building process with your own eyes. You can thus resolve your doubts. But does it entail actual physical presence? I have to wait and see Ronde to get the answer. Perhaps the body remains stationary while the images from the past or the future flit by like scenes in a cinema. Unbelievable. Fantastic. To think that modern man can visualize a primitive caveman or the Alexandrian or say the Napoleonic Wars or even the picture of this earth some 20,000 years later, incredible. I feel ridiculously curious. I can hardly wait. I would never miss this chance. Today I received another letter from Professor Ronde. I had already written back, but my letter must have crossed his second note. He seems to be really eager to win recognition. I sent him another cable giving him the exact date of my arrival. Unexpectedly, Nakur Babu turned up at my place this morning. Nakur Babu is an extremely gentle and timid person. He appears innocent, but actually he is gifted with some extraordinary powers. He can foresee the future in a way ordinary man can't. He is a living time machine. Making himself comfortable on the sofa, Nakur Babu apologized for disturbing my work. A minute later, he declared in a soft voice that in the foreseeable future I was going to face a crisis. As a matter of fact, this was the purpose of his visit. He was here to caution me against the impending danger. A crisis? What sort of crisis? I asked, a bit intrigued. Well, I can't exactly say what sort of crisis it's going to be, but I saw you in serious trouble. It's a matter of life and death, so I'm here to forewarn you, replied Nakur Babu. Am I going to overcome the problem? I don't know, sir. Could you tell me the time you expect the crisis to occur? Certainly, sir, replied Nakur Babu with confidence. It will happen at 9 p.m. on 21st of November. Can't you tell anything else? I shall reach Milan on November the 18th. Presumably the crisis will occur there. As far as I know, Professor Rondey is a good-natured person. Would the danger come from Rondey's machine? Would the danger... Anyway, let that be as it is. Let me travel to the past and to the future at least, before I breathe my last. I arrived in Milan this morning. Milan is a busy and modern city. It literally bristles with activity, being one of the busiest trade centers in Italy. Adas, are you there with me? Rondey's palatial residence is located on the fringes of the city. Rondey drove me home from the airport. Though he is 52, he hardly looks it. So well-groomed and smart, with black hair, a French-cut beard, and a jet-black mustache. We had a fairly long conversation in the car on our way to Rondey's place. Though I couldn't attend your lecture, I read it in the Italian paper, the second tempo. I'm sorry to hear that you have not been able to finish your work on the machine, said Rondey, his hand poised with the clay pipe a few inches from his mouth. The Count continued, and I was quite surprised to hear what he had in mind. I didn't disclose my real objectives in the letter. In fact, my instrument is working quite well. You can travel to the past as well as the future, and if you know the geographical location accurately, you may even visit any particular spot you wish to. For instance, yesterday, I went back to an area before Christ. I attended a seminar at Greece and listened to the Greek philosophers debating. It was afternoon there, but despite all this, my machine has a snag. If I had wished to visit Greece at 10 in the morning or any other particular hour, I couldn't have done so. My instrument doesn't have any device to serve that very vital function of adjusting the time. Frankly speaking, I couldn't incorporate that function into it. If you can improvise any means to overcome this drawback, I shall make you a partner in my concern. Concern? I asked in amazement. Yes, I'm going to start my own company, Rondey replied with a grin. Time Travel Incorporated. Anyone who pays a stipulated amount will be allowed to travel to the future or the past according to his own free will. I placed an advertisement in a New York paper and received 3,000 inquiries in 3 weeks' time. I'm not going to start any business before January, but I'm sure this company is going to be a unique one and would never suffer a loss. How much would you charge for a trip? Well, That would depend on the nature of the trip and on the time span. A trip to the future will cost more than an excursion into the past. $10,000 for a 10-minute tour in any ancient historical era. For the prehistorical era, the rate will be double. And every 10 minutes, the charge will go up at the rate of $1,000 per minute. And the rate for the future? Oh, that rate is fixed. Whenever you travel, be it near future or far, you must pay $25,000 in advance. I couldn't help marveling at his business acumen. Obviously, this business could thrive on the freaks of a single whimsical American billionaire. After a pause, I asked him an important question. What about the spectator in the machine? Would he be physically present at the scene he visits? No, not physically. He would remain invisible, and yet he will be able to see everything. He could just press the latitude, longitude buttons and choose the place he wishes to visit. In 10 seconds he would be there. Once he's there, the wish to visit the pyramids at Gaza, you will be able to do that in a trice. You can swap places as you wish, but the time remains unchanged. It means that once you reach the past or the future, you can travel anywhere. Yes, but as I told you, I don't have any control over the time. Yesterday I pressed the button for visiting 30,000 BC to watch the figures of the Altamira cave, but when I reached there it was midnight. Naturally I couldn't see anything at all. Next I decided to shift the location. I traveled to Mongolia. There dawn was just breaking, so my wish was never fulfilled. I would like you to examine my instrument. I'm here to see it, I assured him, but I don't know yet how I'm going to improve on it. Thank you for offering me partnership in your company. Honestly, I don't need it. I shall be just as delighted in my scientific knowledge could be of help to you. Rondey stared at me, visibly taken aback at my blunt refusal. He couldn't imagine how a mortal could forego such a lucrative offer. I reached the Count's residence at 12. He led me to my room. It was a wonderful arrangement. The hospitality was absolutely flawless. I asked Rondey if he lived in this mansion all by himself. He said he owned another modern house in Rome where his wife and daughter lived. Every 2 months, Rondey would spend a week with them. This house has certain advantages. It offers a good ambience for work. I've got my own laboratory here, my equipment, and my assistant Enrico. Enrico too lives here. Besides, off and on, scientists from all over the world come to see the machine. They stay here for a couple of days before returning to their homelands. At least 30 scientists have come here so far. All of them have admitted that my achievements are indeed extraordinary. I have decided to see the machine after lunch. I am not quite sure whether I will be able to honor Rondey's request. The time machine I have devised can travel to the past or the future for a fixed time. If my formula doesn't tally with Rondey's, then my device may not work. I must stop writing now. It's time to take a bath. We lunch at 1 o'clock sharp. I simply can't express my feelings. I have been to the infirmary of the Emperor Ashoka in Rondey's time machine. The scene there was not quite clear. It was as if I was watching it through a cobweb. But I was thrilled. I had read in history how Ashoka made laws prohibiting animal slaughter and built infirmaries for treating sick animals. But I had never imagined for a moment that I would be able to see those things with my own eyes. Thousands of cattle were being treated in the hospital. The people around were busy talking among themselves. I could only hear a dim murmur. The sound reception was a bit muffled. I guessed that either the machine was faulty or this was the best sound effect it could offer to the viewer. I decided to examine the mechanism. Today I enjoyed the simple role of a traveler spectator. Tomorrow I shall examine the machine. It seems to have striking affinities with mine. I think I'd be able to honor Rondey's request after all. The machine stands in a middle-sized room. Below the machine is a podium about 2 feet in height. The traveler has to enter a transparent plastic chamber through a special door. First, he must inform the operator, Rondey of course, where and which era he wants to visit. The operator presses a button and gets the machine going. One can also control the machine from the covered area, but Rondey prefers to control it himself. The return journey to the present is an automatic one. If the traveler wants to spend not more than 10 minutes, he would automatically return to the present after those 10 minutes are over, unless somebody compels him to come back by pressing the button in the middle of the sojourn. As soon as one enters the plastic chamber and the buttons are pressed, the traveler feels a mild electric shock. Instantly, a dark curtain would seem to descend before his eyes. A few seconds later, scenes begin to appear. I found myself standing on a wide highway with serried high columns. Lampposts stood on either side of the road. Pedestrians, bullock carts, and horse-drawn carriages ran to and fro. There were beautiful 3-storied buildings made of wood. It was a picture of superb order. I didn't realize how quickly the time flew by. After 10 minutes, everything was dark again, and I was back to the machine room. Rondey asked me how I felt. I praised his invention with all my heart and promised to do my best about his request. Today I met Enrico, who works as an assistant for Rondey. He is nearly 30, handsome and intelligent, but he looks a bit depressed. He seems to know a lot about India. In fact, his father was an Indologist. I asked him what his surname was. Petri, he replied. Are you by any chance the grandson of Riccardo Petri? Enrico confirmed that he was. I myself have a few books by Riccardo Petri on India in my collection. Enrico seems quite friendly. I feel like talking to him again. Tomorrow morning, I will start examining the machine. Rondey has assured me all help in case I need any. Okay, so that was the others. I will read the rest of it tomorrow. I think this much is enough for today, and we'll continue tomorrow with this. Okay, all right, enjoy it. And maybe anybody who's watching this, you can ask your children to watch these stories. This is one more time. At the end, I'm going to show the title page. This is Satyajit Ray's The Incredible Adventures of Professor Sherku. All right, thank you.